I believe we're live streaming. We'll have some of those folks that checks up on that for us to find out, but it's so good to have you here with us tonight. We didn't get to make it last night. Last week, Terry had some surgical removals done to his body. I'll let him tell you about that here shortly. But it's so good to have everybody. It's good to have those listening by Power Faith Radio tonight. And we've got our new computer up, Terry, but I haven't got the chat filled in on it yet. So if you hear some dinging going on, it's because they're texting me through my phone instead of the radio. So we put that information up, how they get a hold of us, till I get that figured out. And but it is good to have those of you listening by Power Faith Radio. Also, those of you that are joining us tonight by our two Facebook groups, A Simple Walk and B'nai Noach Fellowship, we thank you so much. On A Simple Walk, you can share those videos with all your social media platform, ask those questions, and we thank you so much for being a part of that A Simple Walk group, and invite some of your friends and neighbors to come in, and we're just there to present and pass on information, not to debate. Those of you that are joining us by B'nai Noach Fellowship, we thank you so much. That is a private group, and you can ask to join, and we'll have you come on in there. It's a little different material from time to time, and we would just love to Terry would just love to show the Noahide way, if I can say it that way. And all this is sponsored by Outreach Noah YouTube channel, and we'd love for you to go on over there to that YouTube channel, Outreach Noah. Subscribe to that channel, hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. Did I get everything in?
I think you did.
Okay.
Other than where you're broadcasting from.
I'm broadcasting from the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee. So there you go. And it's ironic that Bob is here, because Bob's in Chicago, and I've told Bob this. I was born in Chicago and shipped down here as an early age. So I don't know if they saw hillbilly in my eyes and sent me down here, or I don't know what that was all about. But anyway, I was born up there around 90. Let's see. I was born in Cook County Hospital. You know where that's at, Bob? Cook County Hospital. Okay. Terry, I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to get ready for our charity time.
All righty. Good evening, everyone. Let me just say greetings, because I do that thing every week. It's good evening here. Might not be good evening there. It's good something there, isn't it? So greetings, everyone. And thank you again for joining us here at Outreach Noah and hanging in there with us. Always, you can remember to, if you have any questions or anything, which we welcome questions, get them to Scotty, and he and I can do some answering question Q&A things like we did here the other day. We enjoy your questions. Also, always have your pens and papers and note-taking apparatuses, however you want to do it, so you can write things down, because I know you'll probably hear something and maybe that'll spark a question, but you will need to remember the context where your question came from. But always feel free to send those to us. Welcome everyone here in the Zoom room. Of course, we've got Scotty in the engine room there running everything. And then we've got Thomas and Bob, Ronald, Wendell, Stephen and Bria, Amuela, Veronica, Fred, and Annie. Just thank all y'all for being here in the Zoom room. And anyone can come in and join the Zoom room if you want. In the two groups, the Simple Walk and B'nai Fellowship, Scotty always posts prior to class about the class, that we're going to be having the class. In that link toward the bottom, in that post toward the bottom is the link for the Zoom room. If you ever want to join us, you can just click that link and come on in and join us live. You don't have to have your camera on, or you can just have your camera off and just be audio, but you can still be a part of the live Zoom room if you desire to. So just want to welcome everyone tonight. Scotty, are you about ready?
I am ready. I am ready. Amuela's having issues with her camera tonight, and she's reminded me of Max Hedren. Your colors going in.
I knew that was looking familiar, and I couldn't think. But now, yeah, the old Max Hedren video on MTV.
So I'm sorry I brought that up, but Amuela I love it. So Amuela is our yeoman Asher. She does a lot of our texts. Um, where'd you go?
She went
Ronald, right
down.
in the middle. I didn't see you, Ronald, because you're right in the middle. Ronald kind of helps her there a little bit, but she does a lot of that text sharing that you'll see on the Facebook pages and the YouTube channel. And so it's so good to have everybody with us tonight. I'm going to get started on our charity time. We don't have a lot of birthdays tonight, but we're going to. Our first one tonight is by Jamie Windsor. Jamie Windsor had a birthday this past week, and Jamie sent me an email, and I didn't put two and two together, but Jamie listens on the radio, and she is a great supporter of Power Faith Radio. I did not put two and two together until she emailed me, and kind of put two and two together. So, Jamie, we're giving charity for your birthday tonight. We appreciate you listening to Power Faith Radio. Also, Benedict Lawson had a birthday. I think it's today. And John Williams had a birthday, and I think it is today as well. Also, we're going to get started in our just those that just need a healing or some strength. They're going through some stuff. So we love to do this part. So we're going to remember, first of all, always our teacher, Pesach, and his wife, Shira Sherbo. We're giving charity for them tonight. Also, Wardrick Marshall. Did I say that correct?
Think so.
Wardrick Marshall.
Warwick.
Yep. Thank you, Ronald. Warwick. I had hooked on phonics, so Warwick Marshall. We're giving tzedakah for him tonight. Let's see. He is going into surgery. Did you say he's going to be in surgery now? Is that right?
Probably will be. Yeah. He's in New Zealand, so they're a few hours ahead of us. So he's probably well and truly in surgery. It was booked for this morning to have the eye removed.
Okay.
And then later, I'm not sure soon, but he's got a brain tumor they have to remove as well.
Okay, we're speedy recovery. We're giving charity for him to have a speedy recovery. Also, Joanne Flynn Wakeff, we're giving charity for her at this time. Also, Katie Rivers, we're giving charity for speedy recovery for Katie. Also, Veronica Port, we're giving charity for Veronica. She's in the process, I think, of moving. And also her father and mother, Ken and Marge. Now, I know, Veronica, you don't have your camera going yet, but can you tell us how's your dad and mom? And how are you?
Well, I'm doing fine. Been running around Calgary quite a bit here the last few days. My father is foregoing treatment, so he's going to be spending the last days quality time with his with my mother in a new facility. So I don't know how long he has, but at least they'll be together.
Yes. Okay. Well, we're going to continue to give tzedakah for you and your family.
Great. Thank you.
Also, somebody always sends in $1 for Amuela. She must have took off and started working on her camera. Amuela, we're giving charity for you tonight. Also, Thomas Schaus, we're giving tzedakah for you tonight, Thomas. And now we're coming up to Terry Hayes and his father, Philip. If I got that right, tell us how Philip is, your father, and then tell us how you're. There's Amuela. Then tell us how you're doing and about your surgery. But I'm going to go ahead and give tzedakah for your dad and for you, Terry.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
I just talked to my dad actually this past Sunday. I think it was Sunday. Yeah, I think it was Sunday. He's now thinking he's having gallbladder issues, and so he's been asking me a lot of questions. Of course, I haven't been a lot of help, but he's figured that pain in his that's happening in his rib cage is probably coming from that issue there. But other than that, he's doing really good. he was outside with my brother. They had a big snow. They live over in Oklahoma and they had a big snow. So they had piled up a lot of down leaves and was burning them and stuff like that. And then Monday, my brother sent me a picture and then they had nothing but ice. Everything was covered in a sheet of
Wow.
ice up there, down over there. And myself, I just came out of gallbladder surgery myself. They removed mine. I had zero symptoms. I had no pain, even when my surgeon was pushing on over there, they picked it up through scans because I was just bloating in my stomach and just different things like that. And so they ran some gallbladder scans on me and found that it was inflamed. Well, it wasn't inflamed. I had a gallstone the size of an avocado. It actually, my doctor or my surgeon had never seen anything like it. She took a picture of it. It actually engulfed her whole hand. She gave me let us take a picture of her picture, and she sent it off to get it examined and see why it was so large. But she said it was a life-threatening situation because it was starting to tear the gallbladder. And he said if it had ruptured, things may not win as well. So, but I'm doing better. Baruch Hashem. He, like I said, I had zero pain coming through it, never had any, just other than just, bloating in my stomach pains. But he treated me very well through the whole thing. They had to double size the incision to bring it out because it was so big. But I mean, it was, like I said, if you go to the store looking at an avocado, that's how big it was. It was huge.
Well, you look good tonight, Terry.
Thank you. I went back to work this week doing light duty. I'm trying to get my walk. I do a lot of walking at work, and be surprised how a surgery in 9 days, just laying around the living room and walking around the living room, you pretty much lose all your strength.
Yeah.
Well, man, Monday would just beat me like a wet horse. Like I was just wore out, But today was a lot better, so every day's getting a little bit better. Hey, there's Veronica.
Veronica, she got it going.
She got her camera going. But
right.
everything's going good. Baruch Hashem, everything's online. I've got a short period of time, probably a month or so, that I've got to watch what I eat, high fat wise. Made the mistake. I'm a milk guy. I've been drinking milk ever since, I came into the world. And Saturday night, the night after my surgery, I didn't think nothing about it. Took me 2 swigs of milk and run real quick. No. Man, it tore my stomach up. And so, but I was able to eat, stopped by Panda Express this week and got some orange chicken, but I didn't get the fried rice this time. I stayed away from that. So I was able to eat it and didn't have any problems. So I'm like, yeah, I got something there. But I haven't been able to get to my biscuits and gravy yet because I'm going to stay away from milky sauces.
Oh, I'm back on all that milk.
I'm holding you up as
yeah. You'll be there. No time at all. No time at all.
That's enough about me. But
okay,
thank good. Baruch Hashem. He's treated me very well through the whole process.
All right.
Gave me some really good doctors.
Yeah. All right. Our next on the list is Wendy Shepard. We're giving charity for her, tzedakah for her. She's going through some medical issues. Also, we just have a first name on this next one, and it's Beth. And we're giving charity for Beth tonight. Also, Mary Parsons. Wendell, how's your wife doing?
She's continuing to going well. She's had a couple more doctor's appointments, and they're happy with what they're seeing. So we're putting her on a normal 6-month review, and everything's going very well. Thank you.
Look at him.
Great. Good, great to hear. Also, Ronnie Suits. We're giving a charity for Ronnie still. Terry, have you heard anything from Ronnie?
Yeah, he's got a VA appointment tomorrow, and they're going to inform him of the procedures and everything he's going to be going through on his bladder situation, because he's going to have bladder surgery coming up.
Okay, going to remember that. And also, Ronald Dickman. Ronald, are you finding out any more, any less? You still hanging out on a cliff? What's up?
No, we sort of, everything's sort of come to a halt because there's really nothing left to check. So we'll just carry on as as we are. So
Okay.
I'm not. It's not too bad. I just got to pace how much I can do. I overdid it in the garden the other day, and the next day I was pretty bad. But the day after that, I was totally bad, and I didn't sleep on the Monday night, which didn't help. So Tuesday night I took a sleeper, went to bed at 10 o'clock, and got up at 9:30 the next day, feeling a bit better.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
but otherwise, yeah, it would probably take me off the list because there's nothing drastic. I just got to pace what I do.
yeah. All right. All
Okay,
right.
thank you, Scotty.
I'll never forget. I had a friend that went to the doctor. They was having all kinds of aches and pains, and just all kind of stuff was going on, and so they was looking for this miracle advice from the doctor. You know, a miracle. You know, tell me if this is going on. Tell me what I need to do to fix it. And the doctor just said, "Well, you know, you are getting older." So that's she got up and walked out. So that's. So anyway, all right. Well, we're going to continue to give charity for you, Ronald, and then also last on our list is Evelyn Seal. We're giving charity for her tonight. Now we've got two on our blessed memory list, and we're giving this charity, this tzedakah at this time for their merit. And the first one is Zachary Luke Stockton. We're giving this tzedakah for his merit, Zachary Luke Stockton. And the next one is William Rifkind. We're giving tzedakah for him tonight. Hold on just a second. I've got to go over here and find something. And I want to tell you something before we do our prayer tonight, that my sister called and told me today, and I thought, or this week, and she said she heard it, and the minute she heard it, she thought of me, and so I just want to pass it on to everybody here before we do our prayer time. Pace yourself. Pace yourself. P-A-C-E. Pace yourself. Positive attitude changes everything. Pace yourself. Just thought I'd throw that in tonight. That ain't all she told me, but I just thought I'd throw that in. So if you would help me in our prayer time tonight. Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. Have compassion on us and accept our prayer with compassion and favor. For you are a God who hears prayers and supplications. Our King, do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Yes.
Fred also brought up too, as a reminder, if you don't mind, let's give some tzedakah for those that were massacred in the massacre in Jerusalem this past Shabbat.
I should have thought of that. Thank you so much, Fred, for bringing that up. And I haven't, we're kind of limited on our news that we get sometimes, but thank you, Fred, for bringing that up. And let's give tzedakah for them right now. And maybe the rest of this week, those of you that are listening, you can go find a place to give charity, find a place to give tzedakah, do tzedakah for the merit of those that lost their lives there. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Terry, for I wasn't looking at the chat. So, all right, Terry, are you ready to take it away?
Well, we're going to try.
All right, I'm gonna put you on speaker view, and
I've had a week off, so got to do a lot of reading this week, a lot of meditating. I'm like I kind of did the last time. I'm going to start this one off just a little bit different, but it's in line with what we're discussing. I want to ask a question. The reason why I'm asking this question to start with, and Scotty, please jump in here on this conversation as we go into this first, is because the next two areas that I want to cover in our discussion on the prohibition of murder and injury are very sensitive areas. religiously, nationally, socially, regardless of what country you live in. They're two sensitive areas. A lot of people try to figure these things out without the guidance of the instruction from the Creator on dealing with these areas. But I want to ask a question, and this question here is, why are we learning? Why are we learning the 7 laws in their details? Why we've been spending all these weeks and weeks to come in learning? Why are we taking the time to learn this? I mean, there's a lot of stuff we can study. Why this? Why is this important? Anybody want to throw out an answer there? How about you, Scotty?
Repeat the question.
Why are we learning about the 7 laws in their details? The information, the definitions, however you want to put it, the finding details of the 7 laws of Noah. Go ahead, Scott.
I think we're learning them to become better human beings, if I can put it in a nutshell, but also to learn the will of the Creator, or the desire of the Creator for our lives, for us to do what He desires. Am I close?
You're hitting right there on it.
Can I? Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead, Veronica.
Oh, I was just going to say that the 7 laws as written encompass a lot more than just do not murder. There's a lot more to it. And that's why we have to study them individually.
Right. Scotty did kind of really hit it. I want you to think about something within the prohibition of idolatry that we covered. Is what the sages teaches is the prohibition of idolatry. We have to learn what we're not supposed to do to violate the prohibition of idolatry. But on the other side, there are positive. There's negative, and there's also positive. And negative doesn't mean in a bad way. There's do's and don'ts. Best way to put it. But there is positive obligations of the belief in the Creator. You've really got to have that. If you don't believe in the Creator, then why would the prohibition of idolatry mean anything to you? Why would any of this mean anything to you? If you do not believe in the Creator, then what's the use of studying about murder, and theft and all of these things we're going to be getting into? But along with that obligation of belief, there's an obligation that one has to connect with Him in our intellect and our feelings. This is how Rabbi Weiner puts it. To bring ourselves, to the love and fear of God. We hear a lot about that. We hear a lot about the love and the fear of God. But there's an aspect there that if you do not have it, you cannot truly have true love and true fear of the Creator. And that is the obligation to fulfill the will of God, which is His commandments. That's bound upon us as the nations of the earth. Israel has their commandments. It's all wrapped up in the Torah as the priestly nation. And even like I said, these aren't really universal commandments because they don't fit one person. Even within the Jewish realm, there are Jews that are not Levites and they're not the priests. They're not farmers. Some of them are women, some are men, and there are commandments that break down for every place that God has placed His souls within Israel and the nations. And so we have our set, which is the foundation set for Israel. And that's the 7, the prohibition of idolatry, prohibition of blasphemy, prohibition of murder, prohibition of theft, prohibition of forbidden sexual relations, and the prohibition of eating meat taken from a living animal. and the positive one to set up just courts. We have this. If we do not have, and we've not accepted upon ourselves the obligation to fulfill the will of God, to do what he asked us to do, then we can never truly have the true love and fear of God. So learning these commandments is part of the obligation to fulfill his will. But learning these commandments does a lot more. It also will teach you the love of God. It will teach you the fear of God. And also you'll be able to operate within God's parameters for your personal life, and those who have the ability and if you want to call it the calling to step into more of a political realm, you can take these Torah principles into your community legal systems, your city legal systems, your county legal systems, your state legal systems, all the way up to your nation. And you can be and have an input. And so like right now, there's a lot of people that put input into certain areas, like what we're about to get into, that are not doing it from a Torah base, from the base that God desires us to have, and an understanding. A lot of it's emotional, a lot of it's financial, a lot of it's political. A majority of it's probably political, especially here in the United States. But we need to learn to do these for the sake of God. And that's something I wanted to bring up as we go into this.
Terry, I got a question for you.
No, go ahead.
Jamie, who we wished happy birthday tonight, said, is there an inner drive of the soul to bring us in connection with the Creator by doing these 7?
Exactly. Yes. This is actually how we connect to him. If we look at our example, we are called the B'nai Noah, the children of Noah. That is a Torah principle. We are the children of Noah. And those that observe the commandments are called actually B'nai Noah. Those that are non-observant are just called the Goim, just those of the nations. But those who choose to follow these, that came down from Adam to Noah, from Noah to Shem, Shem to Abraham, and Abraham to all the way up through to Moses, and Moses to Israel, when God reinstated everything at Mount Sinai. This is our connection with God. Our soul actually has a connection with that. And our soul desires these things. The commandments aren't, again, religion has done such a negative picture because it had its own agenda with the word commandment. They hate it, but yet the very first interaction with Adam in Genesis 2, chapter 16, it says, V'asaf Hashem Elohim v'a'al Adam, and God commanded Adam. In that, there's so much, it's impactful right there on learning the kingship, the authorship, the sovereignty of the Creator. He has the right. He created man, and he has the right to tell him how he wants him to live. These commandments are behavioral patterns. They're not strict, like, going to put a burden on you. These are behavioral patterns for a person. But like I was going to say, when we look at Noah, what did the Creator tell Moses to write? I think it's Genesis 6:9. That Noah was righteous, moral, pure, and he walked with God. If we look at that, his righteousness, which is the observance of the commandments, his purity, which is the obligations that comes within those commandments to be a moral person, an ethical person, those two combined allowed him to walk with God. So I find that interesting when you really look at it and meditate upon that passage of what we learn from what God told Moses to write about Noah some 2,000 years later after, Noah lived. But one of the things that makes this important, observing these commandments, to take it to the soul level, the connection with God within these commandments is one basic, simple principle. And that is we do it for the sake of God. We do it because he asked us to. He's commanded us to. There is no other agenda. There are people who have written articles, keep the seven, go to heaven. If your eternal reward is a reason for observing the commandments of God, that agenda will remove you actually further away from its proper intent. We should have no agenda other than our Creator said, do this, so let's do it. We shouldn't worry about it. There's very little written in the Torah about the afterlife, because this is the life we're concerned with. This is the life he gives us. In Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 4, the Creator says to Ezekiel, he says, all souls are mine. So when we step out of this body, from our soul, from this flesh, we go back to where we belong. That's to the Creator. And how that happens is totally up to him, because it's his possession. Our souls is his possession 100%. So we shouldn't be worrying about our afterlife. We should be worrying about, are we fulfilling the will of God for the sake of God? And that there is the righteousness that God desires for all of humanity, is that we just do what he asks because he asks, just like a parent does for a child. It's just an example I've used before in the past. You have two children. One child cleans his room up because he's going to get an allowance for it. Did he truly love mom and dad, or did he love the allowance? You see, one of the things I heard a rabbi talk about here about a year ago that I never thought about. If we serve God for the reward, then the reward is our God, and that is idolatry. If you serve God, you want to obey God because you want to go to heaven, you want the reward, you want this, you want good health, you want whatever you can get out of it. Those things are idolatrous to you, because that is what you're serving. You're serving the reward and not the Creator. And it's so hard because a lot of us been raised in religion, which puts the reward in front of us instead of the Creator. I lived like that for years. And it's took me probably the last really 3 years for that to begin to sink in. And over the last, I'll be honest with you, 6 months, last year to 6 months, I've had some moment, because I've been going through some stuff myself, and even including, my health that I didn't even know was wrong. I've been beginning to really see that the Creator is, he says in Isaiah 45, and I don't have the exact passage, but Isaiah 45, he says, I am Hashem, Ani Hashem ba'enod. I am Hashem, and there is no other. I am God, there is no other. And so if we worship, if we desire God's rewards, even his blessings over desiring him, then we've made those things our God. We're idolizing those things. And it takes time. And I have to say, when I study for over the last several years, when I study for the sake of God, not what I'm going to get out of it. And when I study the script, I'm looking to see, how do I behave? How am I supposed to, do I fail? Yeah, I mess up quite a bit. Sometimes I messed up a real big one this last year, but through that big mess up, I've learned a lot too. And so this is the reason why we're studying these commandments, is so we can connect with God on the level that we're learning what he wants us, how he wants us to live and expects us to live. It's not hard. It's not really hard. But these next two areas are sensitive, very political, and we're going to be coming at it from a direction that some may have never even thought about. And understand what I'm going to be covering is from how the sages have studied this stuff for 3,400 years, and this stuff's been passed down, and now we're going to get to learn this stuff here. Israel's already known. Many of us haven't studied this from this extent and this direction, and now we can understand that this is the true Torah way that we should see things. Now, granted, when I read some of this stuff, some of you are going to go, I don't know if I believe in it. That's okay. You got free will. I'm just going to tell you what this is. I've kind of coined it right here for myself. This is a divine legal system because, see, it involves courts. One of the commandments is courts. So it's a divine legal system. And so we study these things a lot from a legality aspect of what's legal. And I don't like the word legal in English because you can have things that are you can have things here, I call in English, you can have things that are legal that is not right. And you can have things that is illegal that's not wrong. I don't really like the aspect of the legal system, but we do deal with a court system. You're going to hear court lingo, liability. You're liable for this action. You're liable for that. And we're going to study later even more about what that means. And it's not as harsh as you think it sounds, not as harsh as some out there who's misusing the information for their own agendas. It's not that bad. It's bad for the person who does things. But when we're learning and your heart is to connect with the Creator, like I've mentioned before in the past, you pass a police officer sitting on the side of the road, you observing the speed limit, you don't even think nothing about him, you go on. It's the guy that's doing 100 miles an hour that's trying to outrun him. Those that are law-abiding, you don't have to worry about the officers of the law. You won't even talk to them because you're doing what you're supposed to do as a law-abiding citizen. And what we want to do is be law-abiding citizens of the kingdom of God. He has his priesthood, and then he has his kingdom of the whole earth, because it tells us in the prophecies that there's going to come a time that the Torah is going to flow from Jerusalem. It's going to cover the earth like water does the seabed. This what we're learning, what we've been learning, will eventually will be common knowledge to every man, woman, and child on the face of the planet. Anything before I get into our first little area here, Scotty?
Yes.
Go ahead. I figured it would, but that's not a problem.
No, this is something that I'm sitting here as I hear you talk about this. Now, there is a position, a responsibility for us to know the law.
Yeah, you're supposed to be responsible enough to know.
Okay. Now, I'm trying to choose my words when I say this, but there are people, teachers, overseers, who work on the fact and hope you don't know the law so that they can get by with stuff and you not know it.
Right.
Can misdirect you, okay, I'll give you, for instance, police, for instance, okay? A police, for instance. You have to know your rights. There are some police officers. Listen, I stand behind the police, but there are some officers that will ask you to do things that goes against your rights. So you have to know your rights. There are teachers in religions, in religious aspects, who are working on the fact that you don't know the law, that you don't know Torah, that you don't know your responsibilities. And so it is a personal responsibility for me to know what I'm supposed to do. I guess, am I saying that correctly? Right. Am I bringing it out right?
Now, what's beautiful about the sages is that the way they explain things, I really enjoy it, because the way to really say this is we are to know and understand our obligations before God to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
Everybody is not at the same ability. I know guys that are way out there above me with all this, you know, very high college education, knowledge of just things out there that I'm like, that's just too confusing. Get just, you know, the stop sign, STOP. I understand that, you know, and so the sages is that we are not judged by God beyond our ability of understanding and application. Like with certain illnesses, mental illnesses and physical illnesses, even within Israel, these people are not held accountable for the commandments because they themselves cannot properly do it because of their mental or physical status. And therefore, you can say that's kind of a leniency, but that's just how God works. He wants us to operate upon the abilities that we have and that he has given us. And he's given us our abilities. Like I said, some are out there that are professors, you know, and me, I'm just, you know, I'm kindergarten here, you know. Did that answer? But on one aspect, I'm going to throw this as another example. If you want to think about them, use, you know, another just regular everyday example. I know today, you can tell the way people are driving, especially the way young kids things are, just excuse me, but they weren't taught the same things that I was taught, like when I was getting my driver's license. Now, I was born and raised in South Central Kentucky, just an hour north of Nashville. And the guy, Ronnie, that we mentioned, he's my dad's age, and we get to talking around these young kids, and there's a saying on one of the radio stations down here: if you use your blinkers, that's the the original instant message. And I made a commented one day. I'm like, no, you're wrong. I need to call the radio station, say, no, you're wrong. That's not the original instant message. Hand signals was the original message. And I had to learn the hand signals to drive, you know, right, left, stop, you know, and all of that stuff. And we were talking about that with the young kids. I said, we had to have an obligation, because if your taillights didn't work, if something happened, you need to know how to use your hand signals. Well, there was another rule that was taught us. When you were driving within the city limits, this was, you know, me in the 1980 in Bowling Green, Kentucky. The rule was, if you were driving within the city limits and there was not a speed limit sign posted, the speed limit was 35. So if you got pulled over in the city limits and there was no speed limit signs, and you could not say, well, I'm sorry, there wasn't a sign, and you were driving 45, 50 miles an hour, you got a ticket, because the rule was, if it wasn't posted, it was 35. So that was something, it was obligatory for me to know as a driver if I didn't want a ticket. So it's the same way with us. We have our commandments, you know, we don't murder, but then what we call the details is all these finer things that's underneath it that explains what murder is and the different levels, because there's different levels of murder and injury. Is that okay, Scotty? All right. So what I'm going to look at first, I probably won't get all the way through the next one. This one's a little short one. I may just go through this one and can call this one the night on it. And that is the subject of abortion. Very sensitive, very political, very religious. All those areas touch this subject. Everybody's fighting from their direction. Tonight, what I want to show us is from a Torah perspective, not a religious perspective, but a divine legal perspective of how it's looked at. Rabbi Weiner writes, one who hits a pregnant woman. Now this comes from the Torah and stuff, and from the Sanhedrin, from the Talmud. One who hits a pregnant woman and kills her fetus, or a doctor who performs an abortion by which the fetus cannot live, or a doctor who gives the mother medicine for the purpose of aborting the fetus or killing it in place, or a pregnant woman who did it herself, all are liable to be punished for murder in the court of law. Now, this is, of course, a just, righteous court system. That when we say in court of law here, it's not the courts of the lands that we have today. This is the true court systems that will eventually be set up. But they're a murder. However, one who hits a woman in another area of her body, which causes her to weaken and subsequently miscarry, is not liable in the court unless his intention with his action was to cause the miscarriage, and the miscarriage was inevitable as a result of the blow. One who hires a doctor to perform an abortion is considered as one who hires a mercenary to kill and is punishable by God. Now I know that's heavy. Anything there, Scotty, before I go to the next paragraph? An implanted embryo is not judged to be human life until 40 days after conception. Until then, it is substance. It is considered to be like water. But during that time, it is still forbidden within the prohibition of murder to cause an abortion, and God will seek justice for the destruction of the implanted embryo. Nevertheless, within 40 days after the egg is fertilized, the moment of conception, a killer of an implanted embryo is not liable to capital punishment by the court of the law. It's it's still murder, but it doesn't constitute capital punishment. And also understand, anytime you read and hear about capital punishment, being liable for that, one, being liable, meaning you are liable for that to happen, doesn't mean it's going to. Okay. But understand, if capital punishment is brought about, all of this that we're talking about, the capital punishment mean, like God said, in man shall not shed the blood of man. And if so, man shall shed his blood, which means, when murder, if you commit murder, the murderer is liable for death. That is a death of the body. We are not dealing with anything on the soul level here. That's God's level. He owns the soul. But when he tells us that someone has to die because of a certain action, it's just a death of the body. And it has nothing to do with their eternal state or anything. It's just that you lose the right to live, and God is the one who tells us who lives and who doesn't. As we read earlier last week and the week before, humanity has not been given the right to distinguish who lives and dies. Only the Creator does. So he sets forth in these laws that point when someone becomes liable, and there still has to be a court system for all of that. And we're going to study about the court systems later. But don't worry about all that right now. Just understand that there is a liability on these major acts to be liable for a capital sin. And some actions doesn't bring you to that capital sin. Or capital punishment. I mean, sorry about that. Even if a mother has an emotional justification for not wanting the pregnancy, now this is going to be tough. For example, in the case of rape or incest, aborting the fetus is forbidden according to the severity of the prohibition of murder. A woman's feelings is not taken into effect if she was raped, or if she, and I know that's harsh, or if there's incest. The situation here is the law of murder. We are not permitted under any circumstances to murder, to take a life, unless it comes through the court system. Then again, most of us, we won't have to deal with that anyhow. That deals with the judges that are set up at that time. But it violates the prohibition of murder. And again, we've discussed the whole issue about murder and the severity of murder, why it is so severe, because every human being is created in the image of God. And when you kill someone, you're destroying that image that God had implanted in that person. It is known that the child she is carrying will be born. It says, if it is known that the child she is carrying will be born with a fatal illness or defect, it is nevertheless forbidden to abort the fetus, and one who does so is a murderer. It would appear that if it is medically proven that the fetus will be miscarried or not born alive, or that it will be born but die within 30 days, then one who transgresses and aborts such a fetus is not liable for the punishment from a court of law. They're still a murderer, but it's at a lower level. You're not held liable for the full extent of the prohibition of murder. A woman, now this, I know some of you, you're asking here, this is going to answer the question here, and I'm going to go over here and read this section. That's really good. It says, a pregnant woman whose own life is at risk because of her pregnancy is permitted to have an abortion. Now I'm going to read that again, and we're going to go over and understand the details of that. A pregnant woman whose own life is at a risk because of her pregnancy is permitted to have an abortion, meaning that if her pregnancy can cause her to lose her life, she is permitted to have an abortion. Now, go over here. Thought I had. There we go. Underneath one of the next chapters, and we'll go through this again later. It's called this was in the laws of the pursuer and self-defense and saving the life of a woman in danger of childbirth. This is in section we'll be covering here in a few weeks down the road. If a woman is at risk of dying in childbirth due to her fetus, it is permitted to kill the unborn fetus and remove it from her to save her life, because it is as if the fetus is pursuing to kill her. See, if someone's coming to kill you, you have the permission to kill them, to say, to stop them. Now, if you can get away from them, that's when we get into the laws of pursuer, you'll see a little bit more detailed on this. But the fetus is inside the woman. There's no chance of her evading it. If she can die because of what the fetus is doing inside of her, it is considered a pursuer and it is sought to kill her. But if the head has already emerged, if the head had already emerged, since it is already born, a child is considered born once the head comes through the birth canal and into the world. It is forbidden to harm it. Again, but if the head is already emerged, since it is already born, being the head is born, it is forbidden to harm it. For one does not have the permission to choose one life over the other, and the risk in childbirth at that point is natural to the world. Scotty, you got something there? Okay, I thought you was in mute in there. It says, if no one takes action against the fetus, it would result in both the mother and the fetus dying, or it is clear that the child will be not non-viable no matter what, or it will be stillborn. It is permissible, if necessary, to save the mother's life, to kill the fetus or a non-viable child, even if the head is mostly out of the body, mostly out, has come. So there's that point. Once the head has been birthed, we're not permitted to take the life of the child, because that would be considered murder, because the child has entered into the world once the head is out. You know, as I was meditating on that and on a spiritual level, one may look at this, because the main aspect of the soul of man is in the mind. And that's the seat of the soul, if you want to think about it. Of course, at that point, it hasn't fully, completely entered in. There's different levels that's going on there on the spiritual sense. But with the Creator, this is the legal ramifications of what is permitted to save a woman that's in birth and what's not permitted. He goes on and says the use of the methods that prevent conception from happening is permissible for the Gentile peoples, as explained in another chapter, which we're going to get to a little bit later. One who kills a born child that could not have lived for 30 days after birth. Let me read that again. One who kills a born child that could not have lived for 30 days after birth due to a serious illness or defect is exempt from the liability of capital punishment. If, however, the child could live at least 30 days after birth, even if only through medical intervention, it is considered viable, and one who kills it is liable for the capital punishment for the prohibition of murder. Okay, I'm going to stop there for any discussion, because the next section we're going to look at, Hashem willing, is euthanasia. And like I said, these are two sensitive areas. I wanted to state the fact that we are looking at the legal issues through the aspect of the Torah, not human government, not human thought, not religious, but through the Torah. Go ahead, Scotty.
Okay, Thomas has got his hand up, and I got to apologize. Earlier, Fred had his hand up, and I didn't see it, Fred.
Oh, I didn't see it either. Sorry about that, Fred.
Well, it's when you was asking about the our connection. But go ahead, Thomas. You go first.
I totally am against abortion, and not only because it's wrong, but because, my mother, she was ordered by the family to abort me because I'm a product of rape. And I didn't know this until some years back. But now today I saw something that really upset me on the world news there, that some of these colleges where abortion is okay to do in them states, they actually got a machine in there now with the day after pill. I'm sorry. That's just totally wrong.
Before Terry, I know he's want to talk on this, and Bob somebody else may have something else to say on this, but it's the sign. It's where we're living at now, and I am looking forward to the day that the Torah will be the law book. Can I say it that way?
Right.
So, but we can't. We have to learn to live within it until we can live without it. Not the Torah. I'm talking about where we're at right now.
The world system that we have. Yes.
Yeah. And as Samuel said, wow.
Yeah.
So, anybody else?
Fred, you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Actually, I think he was going to give a comment when you was asking our connection with the 7 mitzvot. What are we doing while we're doing it? So, Okay. Well,
Any other discussion? I know there has to be discussion. This is a heavy subject.
no, I think a lot, I'm going to be honest with you. I think a lot of people are afraid of a discussion such as this because, um, it doesn't. Let's see. I'm choosing my words wisely again because I don't.
It's a tough subject.
There is so many diversities and two sides of the coin, and the two sides of the coin, we used to say two sides of a coin. It's one coin, and they have to live together. But now it's not. It's this coin has been split, and you're either far right or far left, and that's the reason a lot of people.
And that's what I'm saying. We're not looking at a left or right. We're looking straight down the center at the
Yes.
Creator and what the Creator, how the law of murder pertains to this subject. And there's no gray areas when it comes to that.
Torah gives a responsibility when you can and when you can't.
Yes.
And it's not that when I think a lot of people, when they hear the word abortion, they automatically flip out. But the Torah gives principles of when you can and when you can't.
Right.
So
go ahead, Bob.
I
Then we'll
don't
come to
know-
Fred next.
I don't know the answer to this, but I'm not sure where the day after pill would fit in regarding the halakha. Whether that would be considered a permissible form of birth control, or what it would be. It definitely would be prior to the 40 days.
Right.
But whether it would be considered an abortion or if it would be considered birth control, I'm not sure.
yeah, I'm like you, Bob. It's hard to the proper time.
Well, there's an answer for that. We just got to contact the ones who know the halakhic law on that. I mean, I could practically look at some things like that, but I'm not Torah legal to give a posik on that. Go ahead, Fred.
Well, kind of like what you've talked about, there's a reason why we have to study the principles of the Noahide, because like Veronica was saying, one topic is vast. So when you went over to an abortion, I didn't know he's going to go there, but this is one of those topics where you got to find, you got to look at justification for something like that, or not justify for doing something like that. So that's why you got to have the study. And I was always into pro-life for such a long time, fighting against whatever, but I've heard many rabbis state the same thing that you did about the 40 days. So unless you study and you find that little nugget out, a lot of people are against 0% abortion. But you know what? We find out through halakha and the rabbis who talk about this, that's one of the things that we didn't understand or didn't know that about the viability of life in the womb. So they gave the 40 days, and plus this number 2 one, if it's going to take the life of the mother, that's the other one that's justified. But basically anything else that's just doing it for convenience or whatever,
It's murder.
That's where you step in and say, you know what, that's where when you take the life of another human, we can't punish because we know abortion is a law of the land, but by the hand of heaven, that's his business. But we're just saying, but we have in something like that, that's where, we have pro-life clinics to kind of, so that's one thing that we can do to counteract it, is to be on the forefront of trying to fight that.
Yeah, once you know the law and know what murder is and what you're liable for under the prohibition of murder, then you can take that information into you with different situations and be able to help further the development of the understanding of these different areas.
Right, because we don't know, we talk about abortion, but we don't talk about the circumstance creating the abortion. What's going on with that woman, the situation, is it financial? Is it someone being forced or coaxed? Or, there's so much that goes in it. Because, when I was at the clinic so many times, and seeing these women go in there, they have so many justification for why they was going to do it, but some wouldn't even say a word because sometimes they're forced into doing it, or something like it was incest and they don't know what's going on. They're scared. So, and people just rush them in there and, you know.
Right. And that's
So-
because these people that are doing these things and forcing these women doesn't know the law of murder.
Right. And that's the key. That's the one thing that's the Torah teaches, that you have to look at the other side of the coin. You can't say, okay, they're just going there to abort a child, but, you know, if they're being forced because, you know, maybe it's in secret, maybe it was an affair, so they're being forced to do it. So they're trying to find a justification to it. And the woman's pressure to do it. So I think Hashem sees it and he knows that. So he will judge that, I think, according to what he knows how to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's the ultimate judge.
So we got to put everything in perspective, what's going on.
Amy Willis got.
But that doesn't change it that we need to put the brakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Amuela.
I have a problem with doctors who make the decision for the mothers. You know, they own it how be born at the table. You should have born it. Or to be born with mental deficiency. You should have born it. After I was born, they told my mother that I was going to grow up a vegetable. I was not going to be able to look after myself. Boy, were they wrong. You know, there are so many beautiful souls. You know, disabled. Physically, outwardly disabled. It doesn't mean they don't have a brain capacity. It not, you should not have that right to tell people, to tell the mothers. You know, get rid of that baby. It's useless.
That's why that's why we of the B'nai Noah, the ones who desire to serve the Creator according to his commandments, have an obligation to help inform wherever possible and to our abilities, you know, our communities, you know, impact our laws. I mean, we've got some friends, Jacob and Abby, wherever they live at, they're involved with their local communities, and they've actually helped in the past in some areas. They were part of the process of the lawmaking of their little town or community they lived in. And they take these principles, not from a religious standpoint, but from a legal, and they would pose it as questions to people and actually helped change laws of their local areas pertaining certain things. Like I think one of the areas that was something that was really a matter of theft, and which maybe we can have her on here sometime when we're going through the subject of theft to talk to us, because she's a really, really good student of that and help change some laws. And that's what part of this class is to help. Is we don't know who's going to listen to this, who's going to learn these laws of the Creator and be able to have the ability. I don't have the ability to go down to my town hall, never been involved with anything like that. But those who have will have the ability, like we talked about, our abilities that God gives us. That's what he judges. He doesn't judge us by something we're not able to do. And so some of us have the ability to take it further on up the ladder. You know, I'm just down here on the first rung, you know, trying to do the best that I can do. But I knew this was going to be a touchy subject. Next week's will, you know, Hashem willing, it will be a touchy subject as well. But it's important for us to learn, and some of you may have not have heard from this viewpoint. And I know some are probably thinking, what is the deal about the 40 days? I know there is a deal about the 40 days. I just don't know it. I have heard it for so long, but I don't know the exact how they came to that number. But let me just assure you, the sages of Israel are the wisest that this planet has. How do I know that? If you listen to me anytime, you know I'm a Trekkie. I love my science, and I'm turning back to that, not necessarily Star Trek. But I read an article probably some 15, 20 years ago on how, see, the sages of Israel, through the study of the Torah in its original language, determined the exact amount of time it takes the earth to rotate around, what a day is for a day. They determined the exact amount of time, what a day is and what a month is, down to the decimal points. Back about 20 something years ago, NASA, it was either NASA or IBM, one of the biggies, through their satellite and computer systems, figured out how long exactly a day is down to the decimal point. Guess what?
On the money.
They were on the money with what the sages of Israel determined thousands of years ago without modern computers and telescopes and satellites. They have had all of this because they have to know their times and different things, because they have festivals and things they have to observe before the Creator, and they want to be precise in their observance before the Creator is the priest. And they have all of this down, and it's been recorded within the Talmud, recorded within the ancient writings of Israel. And just now in the modern age is our science catching up with what they already knew, and they're proving it. And you can find that. You can Google that. You can find that. There was a whole article on that. And so I'm just saying, I don't have the exact thing on the 40 days, but if the sages says 40 days, they've had it figured out for a long time. And so far, everything they've had figured out has been proven 100%. And so I know, because some people want get locked down on some numbers, but just to share with you, at least on the length of a day, a length of the month, down to the decimal points, NASA has proved them 100% correct thousands of years later. Go ahead, Scott.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Emily.
Imagine if Beethoven was born like now in this century, the doctor would have told the mother to abort him because of all the different disabilities. Nearly every child she gave birth to had a disability. And Beethoven was deaf. If we didn't have Beethoven, we wouldn't have the beautiful music.
Mm-hmm.
So God had a reason to say no abortion.
Right. Only in the event that the mother may die from the pregnancy, not from the birth, but the pregnancy.
All right.
Okay, Scotty, anything coming over the airways?
No, that's about it. That's about it. It's quiet, unusually quiet. So I guess people are weighing it out.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm willing to discuss these touchy subjects because it matters. It matters for ethics and morality that the Creator desires for His creation. And we can't run, we can't hide behind religion, we can't hide behind our ideas and philosophies. We need to know the rules of the Creator. He holds us responsible, just like with the flood. He didn't arbitrarily, some people want to wonder, well, was there a law before the flood? Yeah. You can't have a judgment without a law. You can't have a punishment without a law. You can't have a reward without a law. It was all there. And so it's becoming, incumbent upon us to know what is expected and obligatory for us. And again, we're learning this for the sake of the Creator, and that only.
Right.
And I can't drive that home enough, that if you have any other agenda to want to walk with God, that agenda is idolatry. You're worshiping something and desiring something more than you are the Creator Himself. Just without Him, regardless of reward, regardless of any kind of reward, we want to serve Him because He's our Creator. Go ahead, Scotty.
All right. Well, Terry, I'm going to bring us to a close. Okay. Those of you listening by Power Faith Radio, we thank you so much for coming and spending time with us tonight. We did get a few texts from them, and the Georgia group is listening, but they weren't able to text through the app, but they were texting me a little bit, and we're so thankful to have all of them with us tonight. Those of you listening by a simple walk, we had quite a few in there. My aunt up in Michigan is there. Sometimes she don't like me to call her Aunt Ellie, but I love so they're listening tonight, and of course others. There were let's see, Zackia is over there, and Linda Hill is over there. And so we appreciate them so much, and others. If I start naming everybody's name, I'm going to forget somebody, and somebody will be upset. but we're so glad to have you there joining us in a simple walk. Those of you joining us by B'nai Noach Fellowship, we thank you as well. And also those of you that are viewing by Outreach Noah YouTube channel, please go over to our YouTube channel and subscribe, hit that notification bell that you'll be notified every time a new video goes up. And we will see everybody right here next Wednesday night.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.